And with that, I'm going to ask my guest, somebody I've known now for about 15 years, and I consider him a personal friend. He happens to be running as a Democratic nominee for the office of mayor. And his name is Bill de Blasio, in case there's somebody out there that doesn't know who the Democratic nominee is. And I'd like to ask Bill to make an opening statement, and then we'll go about asking some questions. Bill?
Well, yeah, Leon, thank you so much. And Leon, you know, you're right. We've known each other about 15 years now. It's been a great working relationship. You're a great friend. And I'd like to further say, Leon, that you were supporting me long before a lot of other folks jumped on board, and long before it was easy to do. And I just want to thank you for the consistency of your friendship. And I have to say I was honored in the primary election to have won the support of the Jewish community overall. A lot of folks who I have worked with very closely, particularly when I started in the city council representing Borough Park and Kensington and Brooklyn. A lot of my old friends stuck by me and helped me to build up support in the Jewish community all over the city. And I was very gratified by that. And I think it is in part because we closely together. We worked to protect child care vouchers over the years for large families that affected the Jewish community so intensely. We worked to try and get the city bureaucracy to treat the community more fairly, worked on behalf of small businesses that so often were treated unjustly and defended their interests. And you know how much I want to change how we treat small businesses in the city. I want to see this city treat them much more fairly and reduce the fines and the overregulation. And there's been moments of crisis where it was important to stand up for the community's needs. An obvious example after Sandy, I spent time in the Rockaways, I spent time at Seagate, and in communities where there was a very particular need for some extra police coverage after the storm, and when the community patrols were knocked out of commission. And going into Shabbos, the first few weeks after the storm, it was really important to have extra police presence, and I was honored to work with the community to make sure that it was there. That's the kind of experience together that has really taught me how to work on behalf of the community, and I intend to continue doing that.
Okay, very good. One thing I'd like to make a comment, which some people are not aware. Everybody says that you're a major supporter of the public schools, which of course you are. But it really worked in our benefit when the priority 5 and 7 were being challenged by the current mayor. And you went in to speak to the mayor. That's when you still had a very good relationship with him. And the mayor said afterwards, or he may have said it to you, I'm not even sure, he says, aren't you a public school parent? Aren't public school all that count to you, for you? And you said, no. The yeshivas are part of this community, and that's important to me also. And that had an impact, I believe, at that time in but in getting the mayor to restore it, even though later on he cut it again. But the fact is that somebody that understands children, that understands our community, which I think it's something that over the last 15 years, I know that you do understand. But let's get to some more wider issues, citywide. What do you see looking forward over the next 4 years, keeping the economy going? It's been doing okay. It's been doing better at times. What are some initiatives that you can make on the city level as the mayor to try to get the city? Everything is about jobs at the end of the day. How do we go in the city getting more and more jobs? What can you as mayor do about that?
Well, I mentioned small business before, and this is really a crucial part of my approach. Small business is the job creation engine in the 5 boroughs, and particularly if you're thinking about jobs in neighborhoods all over the city. One of the things, by reducing some of these unfair fines and some of the unfair regulation, it's going to put money back in the pocket of small business owners. That's going to result in more jobs. I have proposed a revolving loan fund for small business. I think the city should run a fund so that the small business community that's been shut out from lending in so many cases has access to credit. That's another way to strengthen small business and create jobs. I've proposed a affordable housing program to create 200,000 units of affordable housing over the next 10 years. A lot of jobs are going to be created in that process, both in construction and then in building maintenance afterwards. I've proposed a new way to help train people for a number of jobs that exist right now in some of our strongest economic areas, like the technology sector and healthcare. There's an amazing number of jobs, thousands and thousands of jobs that are available right now that New York City residents aren't getting for lack of training. What I've proposed is to reprogram some of our city dollars to the city university system and get new training certificates available and get financial aid to people who need that training so they can get quality jobs that are available right now. So this is just a sampling of some of the things I want to do. But the bottom line is, Leon, you're right. It is about job creation. It's also, I think, very much about trying to constantly push up the wage level and the benefit level. A lot of people in the city are working just at minimum wage, and that's not enough, to say the least, to feed a family. So we're also going to try to make sure there's more quality jobs with decent wages and benefits.
Well, that you would get a lot with technology, and there are, besides the universities, there are other avenues of training that the city may be able to look at. We in the Jewish community have a lot of different trainings going on, but it definitely is important not to get the $7 an hour job, and that's where you can get a lot of that in the technology sector. On a more parochial basis, though, the yeshivas and tuition-paying parents are struggling terribly. We've spoken about this many, many times in the past. We need help. We need help restoring Priority 5, 7, after-school vouchers. Is certainly a step in the right direction. But that only helps the lowest income people. What are things that the city can possibly do? And again, I recognize that we're not going to be getting vouchers, although that's a dream that we all have of one day getting vouchers for yeshiva students. What different programs, are there any specific programs that you can foresee in trying to alleviate the tremendous burden that the population, the Jewish population, the Orthodox population struggles under to make tuition and make ends meet because of that?
Leon, I fully understand, having spent so long representing the community, having talked to so many parents about the cost of the yeshiva education. I understand the burden, to say the least. I have to be honest about the fact that you're right. I don't support vouchers and I don't support tax credits. I just don't think that they're the right way to go when we have such immense struggles in terms of our public education system. I think what I'm going to try and do is alleviate pressure on a lot of other fronts in terms of affordable housing. Obviously, again, 200,000 units over the next 10 years. A lot of those will have an impact on the community. What I'm going to try and do to alleviate the pressure on small business is going to have an impact on the community and, again, put money back in the pockets of small business owners. There's a lot of different pieces. I've talked about water bills over time. A lot of homeowners, a lot of small business owners are being unfairly charged excessive water bills that aren't accurate. I want to restore an appeal process to fix that. I want to see if we can reduce some of the burden of the water bills forward. So there's a lot of things that I think we can do that will help people in a lot of ways that will defray other costs, even if we can't directly go at the question of the yeshiva tuition. The Priority 5 and 7 vouchers are a priority for me to restore as soon as we can. It may take a little while with our fiscal situation, but it's a priority to get them back for me. That will help. And then when it comes to parents, for example, who have a right to special education dollars, but have often dealt with a very unfair bureaucratic situation with the city, I'm going to try and streamline that so those parents get some relief. So hopefully, Leon, if you add up all those pieces, it will start to truly affect a lot of families, lighten the burden. And then, of course, any situation in which there's a security challenge or yeshiva, that in an emergency, we're going to make that a priority, of course. But going forward, I also hope over time, particularly with state help, that we can start to support yeshivas more on the security front as well.
Right. That was actually one of my questions. That's a major issue. And just to explain a little bit to the audience about the special education, we are winning the cases, but the city bureaucracy has made it so difficult for the parents that even when they win the cases, they go through so much, and that's really what Bill is talking about, streamlining it. These are kids that need special education for various reasons, from kids that are autistic to, learning disabled, but severely learning disabled children. And it's been a very, very difficult process under the current administration. And that's something that we have discussed with Bill a number of times. And I think, as he just said now, it's something that he fully understands and fully appreciates.
Well, and as a parent myself, I'm a parent of 2 teenagers, and my wife Charlene and I, as parents, we know how hard it is, how much parents put into bringing up their children from larger families, even more struggles. And at least you would expect that the City Department of Education, when they determine that a child has a special needs that require certain help, that the city would be on the side of the parents trying to speed that help to the child. We know that too often is not the case. So my goal is to make this process more sensitive to the needs of parents and find ways to get, the support for the kids to be achieved a lot more quickly.
Okay. On a very touchy subject, there's a growing feeling that the secular society, as it moves more, especially in New York, as it does become more and more liberal, that the Orthodox Jewish community and the Hasidic Jewish community aren't always recipients of the same tolerance that's demanded of other groups and other minority groups. It's safe to say that Orthodox Jews have a feeling of live and let live for the most part. You live how you live and we'll live how we live. But there's a lot of actions that we see, and you were you were hit by this a little bit also when you came out and you mentioned the passing of Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, and you were attacked for it. And my good friend Haskell Bennett actually stood up and defended you very strongly. How do we respond? How would you respond? And there's a little bit also in the court system, which is not really up to you, but there was something that happened at a trial where a jury said after the trial that when the jury went into debate, they said, well, he's a Hasidic Jew, he's guilty, without listening. This is before they heard all the evidence. How would you stand up for this? I know you've always been a strong friend of our community, but this feeling sometimes that we have in the community that we're outsiders.
Well, I've seen firsthand the bias that you're talking about. I have a lot of very deep friendships in the Jewish community, including in the Hasidic communities, and a lot of friends, a lot of supporters, a lot of people I've worked shoulder to shoulder with on behalf of our neighborhoods, and I have seen the bias. There's no question that sometimes in the mainstream media, sometimes in those situations you've seen people misunderstand the community and not respect exactly as you said. The people have a religion and a culture, and we are obligated in a free and democratic society to respect each and every kind of person. And I have to say, on top of that, the Jewish community has given a lot to New York City. As I've often said, it's a community that's extraordinarily charitable. In the case of so many communities in the 5 boroughs, whether it's Hatzolah, whether it's Shomrim, the many services that the community provides for its own members and reduces some of the burden on the public sector. That's something that people should be thanked for. So all I can say is, in my experience, I'm aware of the fact that there's some real bias out there. It's not acceptable to me. As mayor, it would be my business to make sure City Hall is open and responsive to the Jewish community. And I think based on the personal relationships that I have alone and the history I have representing the community, that's going to be a very natural thing to change the relationship and make sure that the community feels fully included.
Okay, very good. Stop and frisk. Not to get. I don't want to get into stop and frisk. It's really the idea. People sometimes say, "Oh, Bill de Blasio is against stop and frisk. We're going to have a lawless society," and I think really that's something that is totally not true, and you're looking at Bill Bratton as a replacement, who was actually, I think, the forerunner of stop and frisk. You're looking at some other, actually, Esposito. I've heard. I mean, some of the things are just what I hear quietly. Doesn't mean they're true. That we know everything that goes on in your personal life. But how many children you have, ask most people. They have no idea. I do know that you have 2 children, but so a lot of stuff that we hear on the street isn't always true. But security is a concern to the larger community, and I think it would go a long way if you explain your position on this issue, and that you recognize that security of New York City is uppermost in your mind. I think that's something that's very important to get out there.
Well, absolutely, Leon, and thank you for the question. Look, of course, I care deeply about the safety and security of all New Yorkers and of all our neighborhoods. And anybody who's been in public service, as I have for a number of years, understands this is one of the most fundamental things we do. And certainly for a mayor, one of the things you wake up every morning thinking about is how to keep the city safe. We have the added burden in our city of having to keep our city safe from terror, and we are sadly the number 1 terror target on earth, and obviously the Jewish community knows plenty about that challenge because of our close ties to Israel. We know exactly what it's like for a city or a country to be faced with that threat. So I'm very, very focused on keeping us safe, and the point I've made throughout this campaign is I have immense respect for the men and women of the NYPD. I want to work with them to continue the trend towards greater and greater safety. But we also have to be smart about the fact that we've had some real problems in the relationship between police and community in a number of neighborhoods because stop and frisk was overused. It was used in many cases in an excessive manner. The federal judge found it was used in many cases in an unconstitutional manner. And one of the other things all of us in public service do is we swear an oath to the Constitution. That means we have to take those individual liberties very, very seriously. So I believe we can have a very safe city, continue with the strong police force we have today, over 34,000 members, the best police force in the nation. We have better technology than ever to help us stay safe. We are developing new approaches. ComStat that Bill Bratton developed 20 years ago was a fundamental step forward for this city, but we've continued to develop new and strong approaches, including efforts to keep young people out of gangs and to really stop some of these problems before they start. So we're going to deepen our commitment to that, but we're going to also, in the process, bring police and community back together. And you know what everyday cops will tell you? Beat cops will tell you that they need those close relationships with the community. They need the ability to gather the intelligence, the information, to know where the criminals are, where the weapons are. That's what keeps us all safe. And we have to strike that balance more effectively. And I'm committed to finding a police commissioner who will do that.
All right. Okay. So I thought that was very important to get across. Health issues. Personally, I don't think that the mayor was really wrong on his 16-ounce soda. Sometimes I walk into a 7-Eleven, especially when I'm on a highway stop, and you go into there and you see these guys that are, really need to lose some weight, going up to those fountain machines, taking that 44-ounce gulp, and putting in regular Coke. So I don't think he's totally off. But in general, how much do you think that the mayor should be involved in health, and in what areas can the mayor be involved? And where do you stand on these issues? Without getting
I'll give you my sense of that. I will say we're going to be running out of time in a little bit. I apologize.
We're running out of time in any case. This is the last question. I'm going to ask you to wrap.
Okay. Look, Leon, I have never been afraid to disagree with Mayor Bloomberg. I disagreed with him intensely on what he's done to small business. I disagreed with him on the child care vouchers. I obviously disagree with him on extending his own term, and I led the opposition to him on that third term. Many, many things, the water bill, so many issues that I have challenged him on. On the issue of public health, though, I think he's been generally good. I've been willing to stand by him. I think the smoking ban proved to be a very good thing for the city. I think he's been right on things like the calorie counts. And on the soda ban, I stood by him as a parent. I thought, even though he probably could have presented it better, and limit the size of those drinks, it doesn't mean someone can't go to it.
You're still there, Bill.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. It does. All I'm going to say is people still can go to the supermarket and get a bigger soda if they want. But when you're at the fast food restaurants and some other places, I think the mayor's right to want to put some limits on it. And that's one of the areas I do agree with him.
Okay, very good. Again, this show is not about endorsements. I do personal endorsements. Everybody knows I've endorsed a number of candidates. But this show is about really just getting everybody to understand, everybody that's running for office, where they stand on the larger issues that affect our community, as well as those that are of parochial interest to our community. And with that, I'd like to ask Bill de Blasio to make a closing remark. And with that, we'll end the show.
Well, Leon, again, thank you, Leon, for a long, long friendship and for working so closely with me, for the support you give me, and I look forward to working really closely with you on behalf of the community going forward. My simple message to all your listeners is we need to make some very serious changes in our city, especially from the perspective of our neighborhoods. We need a mayor who thinks in terms of our neighborhoods. We need a mayor who thinks that all 5 boroughs matter. I am a Brooklynite. I'm proud to be a Brooklynite. I'm a homeowner. I send my kids to the public schools in our community. The reason I say that is I, in my very life, relate to the everyday lives of New Yorkers. And I think what people saw over these last years is, unfortunately, a city hall that was unresponsive to everyday people. And we have to fix that. So I'm going to be working hard to make sure we treat our small businesses more fairly. I'm going to be making sure that we take the steps to get people back to work and to really rapidly increase the supply of affordable housing so people can afford to live in their own neighborhood. I want a city hall that understands the everyday struggles of New Yorkers and acts on them and responds to them. And is open to all communities, obviously including the Jewish community. And that's what I pledge to do. And if the people will have me on November 5th, I look forward to being a mayor for all the people.
Okay, very good. Again, everybody, please go out Tuesday. Vote, vote, vote. No, I don't mean vote 6 times, but make sure. It happens that I do, but in general I don't recommend that. But make sure that you go out to vote. Every single vote counts, no matter which office. It's critical. It's critical that everybody sees that we are a community that's engaged and out there voting. Everybody have a good thought. Bill, thank you very, very much for appearing on the show, and good luck on Tuesday's election.
Thank you very much, Leon. See you soon.
You've been listening to Community Matters.